Thank you. My name is Nipun. I am honored to be part of the Greater Good family. And I really just want to share one story and one big idea. Stories around Karma Kitchen. A lot of you might have heard of this restaurant. It's an experiment where we take over a restaurant and you walk in, you have your meal like any other place, but your check reads zero. It's zero because someone before you paid for your meal and you pay forward for people after you. A lot of people think that can't work. We said, let's try it. We're not PhDs, we're PhDs, so we just kind of like, let's do it. So what if we fail? We died trying to be generous. So one time, this fellow walks in, his first time at Karma Kitchen, he's wrapping his head around this idea. You mean everyone in the restaurant is paying forward for each other? That can't really work, can it? And so he comes in, he sits down, he's on a table of 6. And he starts to have conversation, they order food, and the server comes and he engages in a little relationship with him. And at the end of his order, he tells the server, hey man, that's a really cool t-shirt. Where can I get one? It was a Karma Kitchen t-shirt. And so the server says, look, actually, these are not for sale. I don't know where you can buy one. I got one because I was volunteering. So the guy says, oh, that's okay. He goes, gets his food. And then the server has this idea. He goes and borrows someone else's t-shirt, takes his off, and gives it to this fellow. And he puts a nice fun tag. It says, please laundry before use. And he gives it to this guy. Now, this guy's still wrapping his head around this idea of generosity, and now the waiter is literally taking the shirt off his back. Right? So he's completely blown away. He doesn't know how to process it. He's a little overwhelmed with gratitude. So he goes back in, he's having his meal, the server's doing other stuff, calls the server midway through, and he says, look, I work at eBay, and what you guys are doing here is great, and I just want to contribute something. It wasn't even the time for a check to pay forward. His cup of gratitude was overflowing. He says, I just want to contribute something. Takes out 2 cards, 2 $50 cards for eBay, right? So gives it to the server. Server comes back and says, look, this guy just gave $100 for our t-shirt. I think we have a new business model, So he doesn't know what to do. He says, this is for Karma Kitchen. So he said, well, who is Karma Kitchen? It's all of us. So go tell him to go give it to someone else at the restaurant. So this guy goes back to this fellow and he says, thank you for giving it to Karma Kitchen. Karma Kitchen is actually all of us. Can you just gift it to a random table? Now this guy's completely lost it, right? He's like, what the heck? What's going on? So he says, no, look, I'm a little shy. I don't want to go up to a random table. So this guy says, okay, I'll do it on your behalf. Goes to a table. This is also a first-time guest that he didn't know anything about, and they were just like, they hadn't even ordered. So they knew about it. It was a mom and son. And mom wanted to teach the son what paid forward is all about, so they had brought his piggy bank. And they were just sitting on a table, and they were just talking about some of this stuff, and this guy comes up, the server, and says, ma'am, someone's cup of gratitude overflowed back there, and this is just a $50 gift card for you. And she's like, oh my God, like money's falling out from the tray, skies, what's going on? And she's turning red and watching this. That other fellow is completely like, now he's just lost, and the same thing happens at the other table. And we see this repeatedly, right? That this idea that gratitude is generative. One act of gratitude begets another act of gratitude, which begets a third act of gratitude. And that whole possibility would not be possible were it not for that initial trigger. So, as a lot of us probably know, an act of gratitude creates, this is just from my personal experience in the lab of my life. I don't have any other labs. But an act of gratitude creates a sense of stillness. And that stillness, we fall into our interconnectedness. And in that interconnectedness, we just feel like paying it forward. Now what's interesting is what happens when many people start paying it forward together, right? If many people start connecting all those dots, what happens? And those are really the questions that we ask. So we start to shift. One of the fundamental things that happens is we shift from transaction, which is very me and my centered, to trust, which is very circle-oriented. This, of course, is not how our real-world economy works. Right? Worsening divorce rates points to improving economy. Or, this was on Valentine's Day, the story that went out. This couple said, look, yeah, this hugs and thank you and stuff, that's really not for us. Let's commoditize everything in our relationship. And this was out on all major news outlets. Right? A lot of schools, thousands and thousands of kids are being paid to study because we don't know how to reach their hearts. And then they went a little further and said, if you're paying your kids to do if you're paying your kids to go to school, why not pay them to do chores, homework too? And hey, let's create an app for that. Right? Not just that, why stop there? If you pay your kids to eat vegetables, study finds they'll actually do it. Right? So we've lost touch with our inner world, and when we lose touch with our inner world, the only way we seem to really start to gravitate towards more external motivations. This is, of course, the guy who founded LinkedIn, Reid Hoffman. It's a beautiful quote, well, beautiful in a certain way, but very interesting quote in the Wall Street Journal by Reid Hoffman, who himself is a billionaire. He says, social networks do best when they tap into one of the 7 deadly sins. Facebook is ego. Zynga is sloth. LinkedIn is greed. So how do we change that? And this is the kind of question that we ask. What if you start with, we are enough? We have enough. And with what we have, let's work from there. What would happen? As Gandhi would say, maybe in a gentle way, we can shake the world. So we doubled down on this idea. We said, can we create an organization that starts with you are enough? So in a very concrete way, 15 years ago, 4 of us decided to start an organization called ServiceSpace. But the way we doubled down on gratitude was that we decided we're not going to solicit anything. So to this day, we've never filled out a fundraising form. To this day, we've never pitched a story to the media. We just said, whatever comes our way, we'll serve from there. I mean, so what if I'm just helping you pick up the chairs? That's fine. If it scales to 500,000 people, that's fine. Ended up scaling, but our experiment was to really just double down on gratitude. And it's amazing what kinds of things can result if you can create an ecosystem around it. What we noticed was that when we weren't so focused on this vertical idea of financial incentives, we had a whole ecosystem of different capitals. Right? Sure, financial capital is one of them, but there's also intellectual capital, spiritual capital, social capital, living capital, cultural capital, experiential capital, so many different kinds of capitals. And when you have an ecology of these connections, what starts to happen is that the quality of connections in a network are completely different. This is Thoreau, I'll quote Thoreau. So we have Reid Hoffman on one side, and then you have Thoreau really shedding some light on this. Thoreau says in 1854, he says, we're in a great haste to construct a magnetic telegraph from Maine to Texas. But Maine and Texas, it may be, have nothing important to communicate. So yeah, we built all this stuff, but what are we communicating off of it? And if you look at it, we have done all this stuff for profit. And that's good. There's a certain amount that's communicated there. It's not that deep. We've done it for protest, and it's had remarkable results. But we haven't done enough of it with love. Right? Smile cards thank you. We really haven't. How many examples can you give of things like Tiananmen Square that have just created a revolution with the tools and capacities that technology now affords us? So smile cards, for those of you that don't know, is this idea of you do a small act of kindness, you leave a smile card behind, tells the person you don't know who did that act, but please pay it forward. Right? So we can do so many things like that. And why aren't we? And can we? Right? Solutionaries. The advantage that has is that when you go from the profit to protest to love, is that love creates deep ties. So he's not just talking about it, it actually gives us the quality of connections in that kind of a network are incredibly different. And the quality of ties, if you look at all these guys talking about network theories, quality of ties is a very hard problem to crack. And that's why no one talks about it. Right? Because it's complex. How do you work around love? Because then you have to divest yourself from a certain kind of vertical currency that we're so addicted to. We call this idea Gandhi 3.0. This is the big idea, right? Gandhi 3.0. 3.0 because, well, first of all, we're in the Silicon Valley. We put like .0s to everything. Gandhi lived in a time where it was one of him, many of us. One to many. In India, there was an incredible leader by the name of Vinoba. He walked from village to village, inspiring rich landowners to donate their land to the landless. 5 million acres were just gifted like that. It's an unprecedented feat in human history. But he just walked from village to village. It was one-to-one connections. And what you see in nature is many to many. Right? And we see this all over the place. And now we're seeing all kinds of different ways in which that many-to-many framework can be carried out. And it looks like this visually. This is one-to-many. This is one-to-one. This is many-to-many. Now imagine if we create a network of many-to-many around our values of gratitude, compassion, kindness, things that we all care about. It's possible. Technology gives us this. Without the Gandhi there, it's just organizing 3.0, where the quality of connections doesn't matter, where you're just accumulating number of friends on Facebook. But are those really friends, or have we cheapened this idea of friendship? But putting that inner transformation up front is very critical. And I think that's the possibility that gratitude affords us if we can marry it with technology. So this is the kind of stuff that we do. I'll end with this quote. I think it ultimately starts with each one of us. It says, "You are enough, we have enough, here and now, with whatever we have, let us serve." And this quote, which says, "Service doesn't start when you have something to give. It blossoms naturally when you have nothing left to take." And maybe if we do this for gratitude, we can indeed, in a very gentle way, shake the world. Thank you very much.